From King Arthur's Avalon to Plato's Atlantis, people have long dreamed of magical islands where the miraculous happens and the lost find sanctuary. The Celts of Ireland were no different, and in their tradition, the mythical island was known as High Brasil. Could this ancient mythical island of High Brasil be a portal for otherworldly beings, or is it the description of Hollow Earth? High Brasil is very similar to the lost city of Atlantis, the key difference is being that High Brasil actually has many first-person accounts written about it. In addition, many of these accounts cause High Brasil to be even more mysterious than Atlantis. High Brasil is a phantom island said to lie in the Atlantic Ocean west of Ireland. Irish myth describes it as cloaked in a mist, except for one day every 7 years, when it becomes visible but still cannot be reached. Stories about the island have circulated throughout Europe for centuries, with tales that it was the promised land of saints or a paradise where an advanced civilization lived. In Irish tradition, it is thought to come from the Irish U Brasil, meaning descendants. Nautical charts identified an island called Brasil, west of Ireland in the Atlantic Ocean, as far back as 1325. In a Portoland chart by Angelino Dulcert, later it appeared as the Insula di Brasil in the Venetian map of Andrea Bianco, 1436. A Catalan chart of about 1480 labels two islands, Ilha de Brasil, one to the southwest of Ireland, where the mythical place was supposed to be, and one south of Ilha Verde, or Greenland. In 1480, John Jay departed from Bristol, England, on a journey to find the fabled island, only to come back empty-handed after spending 2 months at sea in 1481. In 1481, 2 more ships, the Trinity and the George, departed from Bristol on an expedition to find High Brasil, with no success either. Interestingly, in 1497, Spanish diplomat Pedro de Valle reported to the Catholic monarchs of Spain that John Cabot, the first European to visit North America since the Vikings, had discovered in the past by the men from Bristol who found Brazil. This implied someone from one of the Bristol expeditions had actually managed to find it. In 1674, a captain, John Nisbet, claimed to have seen the island when on a journey from France to Ireland. He is said to have sent a party of 4 ashore, where the sailors spent the entire day on the island. There, they claimed to have met a wise old man who provided them with gold and silver. Strangely, the captain said the island was inhabited by large black rabbits and a mysterious magician who lived in a large stone castle by himself. A follow-up expedition was led by Captain Alexander Johnson, who also claimed to have found High Brasil, confirming Nisbet's findings. In the following years, High Brasil would be forgotten about, as attempts to find it failed again. Map markers started leaving it off most nautical charts. When it was last observed on a map in 1865, it was simply noted as Brazil Rock. The last documented sighting of High Brasil was made in 1872 by Robert O'Flaherty and T.J. Westrop. Westrop claimed to have visited the island on 3 previous occasions and was so captivated by it that he brought his family with him to see it in person. There, they all witnessed it appear out of nowhere, only to see it vanish again before their very eyes. High Brasil has also been identified in various 20th century publications, one of the more recent being Graham Hancock's book Underworld, The Mysterious Origins of Civilization. Great Island, a similar west of Ireland place, is in Irish myths, of which are believed to have influenced the Vikings. Great Island, also known as White Man's Land, and in Latin, Iberia Major, and Albania, was a land said by various Norsemen to be located near Vinland. In one report in the saga of Eric the Red, described the people in what was supposedly white man's land to have been dressed in white garments, uttered loud cries, bore long poles, and wore fringes. Another report identifies it with the Albani people, with hair and skin as white as snow. Celtic folklore tells of a mythical land across the Western Ocean, often referred to as the Celtic Otherworld, and also known as Avalon, among other names. The Byzantine scholar Procopius of Caesarea described the Otherworld of the ancient Gauls and said it was located west of Britain. Plutarch, in a chapter from the Moralia, called Concerning the Face which appears in the orb of the moon, describes a land called Argegia that was 5 days' sail from Britain, and that the Celtic natives also knew of 3 other lands equal distance from Argegia, and from each other in the direction of the setting sun, including a great continent and land of Cronus, and from the ancient era until the early Christian historical era, geographers referred to the waters beyond Iceland as the Cronian Sea. Homer talks of the island of Ogygia, and it lies far out at sea, 5 days' sail from Britain, going westward. Irish documents called Imrama from the 6th and 7th centuries supposedly record the adventures of Irish priests in the Western Ocean, while other folklore stories tell of an Atlantic voyage of those like Saint Brendan and King Arthur, often considered mythical. Gerardus Mercator refers to Jacob Canoin, who had learned that 8 men returned to Norway from an expedition to the Arctic Islands in 1364, in a letter to John Dee in 1577, stating specifically that the 8 men who came to Norway in 1364 were not survivors of a recent expedition, but descended from the colonists who had settled the distant lands several generations earlier, and claimed to be the descendants of King Arthur's expedition. Tech-Duin is a mythological island to the west of Ireland, where souls go after death. In Irish mythology, Don, the Dark One, from Proto-Celtic, is an ancestor of the Gaels, and is believed to have been the god of the dead. Don is said to dwell in Tech-Duan, the House of Don, or the House of the Dark One. A 9th century poem says that Don's dying wish was that all his descendants would gather at Tech-Duan after death. The 10th century tale, Fingin's Vigil, says that Tech-Duin is where the souls of the dead gather. In their translation, Anne Dooley and Harry Rowe commented that to go to the House of Don in Irish tradition means to die. This suggests that the pagan Gaels saw Don as their ancient ancestor and believed they would go to his abode when they died. Tech-Duin may have been thought of as a place where the souls of the dead gathered before travelling to the final destination in the other world, or before being reincarnated. According to Julius Caesar, the Gauls claimed descent from a god of the underworld. Both Saint Berind and Saint Brendan found the island on their respective voyages, and returned home with nearly identical descriptions of High Brazil, which they dubbed the Promised Land. The Christian writers who put together the Liber Gabala Erna made Don one of the Milesians, the mythical ancestors of the Gaels. The Milesians invade Ireland and take it from the Tuatha De Danann. During their invasion, Eru, one of the goddesses of Ireland, drowns in a shipwreck off the southwest coast. Don is then buried on a rocky island which becomes known as Tech-Duin. In the literature, Tech-Duin is said to lie or beyond the western edge of Ireland. Tech-Duin is commonly identified with Bull Rock, an islet off the western tip. Bull Rock resembles a portal tomb as it has a natural tunnel through it, allowing the sea to pass under it as if through a portal. In Ireland, there was a belief that the souls of the dead departed westward over the sea with the setting sun. In one of the most famous UFO encounters ever, known as the Rendlesham Forest Incident, a strange craft is reported to have landed outside a US military base in the UK. Sergeant Jim Penniston claims to have touched this craft and telepathically received 16 pages of binary code into his mind. He wrote down the code the next day and had it translated decades later. The code was said to list very specific coordinates of High Brasil and listed the location where the ancient cartographers had it mapped. The message also listed the coordinates of several other ancient sites around the world, such as the Pyramids of Giza and the Nazca Lines. At the very bottom of the message, the coordinates of High Brasil were listed again, along with an origin year of 8100.
In 1980, one of the most well-documented UFO encounters ever occurred in Rendlesham Forest near the RAF Bentwaters Woodbridge complex in England, an installation operated by both the United States and English military.
When we arrived to the suspected crash site, it quickly became apparent that we were not dealing with a plane crash, or for that matter, anything else we've ever responded to. There was a bright light emanating from an object on the forest floor. As we approached it on foot, a silhouetted triangular craft about 9 feet long, 6.5 feet high, came into view. The craft was fully intact and sitting in a small clearing just inside the woods. As the three of us got closer to the craft, we started experiencing radio difficulties. I then asked Airman Kabansak to relay the radio transmissions back to our control center, act as a relay. Burroughs and I proceeded towards the craft. When we came up on the triangular-shaped craft, there were blue and yellow lights swirling around the exterior as though they were part of the surface. The air around us was electrically charged, and we could feel it on our clothes, our skin, and our hair. Nothing in my training prepared me for what I was witnessing. After 10 minutes without any apparent aggression, I determined the craft was non-hostile to my team and to the base. Following the security protocols, we completed a thorough on-site investigation. This included a full physical examination of the craft, which included photographs and my notebook entries that I had at the time, and relays with the radio through Airman Kabansak to our control center. Those were required. On one side of the craft, there were symbols that measured 3 inches high, and they're approximately about 2.5 feet long. These symbols were pictorial in design. The largest symbol was a triangle and was centered in the middle of the others. These symbols were etched in the surface of the craft, which was warm to the touch. Even though it looked like black onyx, it felt like metal. The feeling I had during the encounter was like no type of aircraft that I've ever seen before. It was in the Jane's Book of Known Aircraft or anything I've seen since. After roughly about 45 minutes, the light from the craft began to intensify. Burroughs and I then took a defensive position away from the craft as it lifted off the ground without any noise or air disturbance. It maneuvered through the trees and shot off at an unbelievable rate of speed. It was gone in a blink of an eye. In my logbook that I have right here, I wrote, "Speed, impossible." That night, over 80 Air Force personnel, all trained observers assigned to the 81st Security Police Squadron, witnessed the takeoff. The information acquired during that investigation was reported through my military channels. The team and witnesses were told to treat the investigation as top secret, and no further discussion would be allowed. The photographs that we retrieved from the base lab, 2 rolls of 35 millimeter, of course, were apparently overexposed. Thank you.
On July the 7th, 1878, the inhabitants of the Irish seaside town of Ballycotton in County Cork were both surprised and astounded by the sudden appearance of an island that had not been seen in the ocean before. Sightseers gathered and were able to see the new island quite plainly, and were able to make out its coastline, woodlands, fields and very deep valleys. A large number of County Cork fishermen set out in boats to investigate, but as they approached, the entire island disappeared out of existence, leaving them amazed and wondering. High Brasil shares a lot in common with the tale of Atlantis and other lost cities, but I believe it's most similar to the stories of Agatha and Shambhala. The name High Brasil finds its origins in the name Brasil, the high king of the world in Celtic mythology. Strangely enough, the legend of Shambhala also tells of a golden city hidden where the king of the world sits on his golden throne. It's very interesting that 2 different cultures, worlds apart, would share such a similar mythology. Is High Brasil still out there? No documented sightings have occurred since 1872, and although researchers have found areas of land that may have once been mistaken for an island, it does not seem to exist, not in any way that we can see it, that is. If it does, however, appear once every 7 years, then that means it should have appeared in 2012 and will again appear in 2019. So if you happen to find yourself on the west coast of Ireland, keep your eyes open. You may be surprised.